Happy New Year to all of my friends and family, my global family. And today I just want to share with you some very, very important success strategies for the new year. Now, when we talk about success strategies, we know that every year around this time, people get into resolutions, they get into various, debates about how to change what happened last year, how to improve, how to make adjustments. And so I just want to share some success strategies that I've used to improve from year to year and to make my goals, my aspirations, my dreams come true. So let's take a look at a few of these principles. When we look at time, we have to realize that time is not divided. We learn how to divide time. So when it comes to days, months, and years, it's basically our construct to keep us segmented so that we can, figure out time. And it's good in a way because when we segment our lives into periods, it gives us an opportunity to adjust from period to period. So you can make adjustments in the new year to compensate or to overcome whatever deficiencies there were in the previous year. With that said, I want to give you some very, very important takes on what is needed for your year to be successful. And I want to begin by talking about habits. The most important key to success every year is building habits. Your success is really related to your habits. Whatever you habitually do, that's who you are. So if you think about it, if you habitually engage in bad habits, then you're a bad person. If you habitually engage in good habits, then you're a good person. So habits are the key. If you want to succeed, it revolves around your habits. Now, how do we form habits and how do we build good habits? Well, I want you to remember this. I want you to remember a couple of things. One is everything begins with your thoughts. So your thoughts become words, your words become actions, your actions become behavior, your behavior becomes habit, your habit becomes lifestyle, and your lifestyle determines your culture. So, to succeed, we have to look at creating good habits. How do you create good habits? You create good habits by doing the following. By listening up. When I say listen up, I'm not talking about listen up. I'm talking about listen up. So you have to listen above your current state. What does that mean? It means that you have to expose yourself to things that take you higher than where you are. So you have to listen up. You also have to read up. And then you have to watch up. So this means you have to begin with a destination in mind. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to become? If you want to become the better, then you have to listen better. If you want to move up, you have to listen up. If you want to be better, you have to read up. In fact, everything in your life has to go up. So if you're not satisfied with the friends that you have to friend up. And all of this happens when you build the right habits. So you have to associate up. You have to read up. You have to listen up. How do you do that? You have to determine what it is you want to become, and then you have to develop habits that help you to become what you want to become. So for example, if you want to become a liar, then you have to just develop lying habits. If you want to become an honest person, you have to develop honest habits. So it's a process. So now, here's some things I want you to take a look at. Every day, how do you begin your day? What do you watch? What do you listen to? What do you read? what you watch, what you listen to, what you read influences your thoughts and it influences your habits. So you have to begin by determining what your outcome is. What do you want to achieve? And then you have to read, watch, listen, and associate according to what your destiny is. Now, before you determine your habits, there's another very important steps, and that is evaluation. When we look at evaluation, in order to change or improve, you have to look in the mirror. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be brutally honest. Are you satisfied with where you are? Are you satisfied with what happened last year? If you're not satisfied, then you have to determine what changes need to be made. Evaluation is ongoing and continuous, and it is something that you have to do out of honesty. You cannot evaluate and determine that, okay, everything was fine when it's not fine. If it wasn't fine, you have to be brutally honest with yourself, and you have to say to yourself, look, I failed last year. I messed up. Here are the areas that went completely wrong. And then you have to determine how to build habits that would rectify that. What's interesting about life is that every athlete, every talented individual, but especially athletes, everyone has a coach. Now, in most cases, athletes make much more money than their coaches. And so why do they need a coach? If they're already the best in their sport, if they're already successful, well, they need a coach to guide them, to show them where they've fallen short, to show them where they've made mistakes, and to show them what they can improve on. Each of us, in the same way, we need a coach. Now, your coach may be a pastor, it may be a counselor, your coach may be, just someone who just gives you good vibes and good inspiration. But we all need someone to show us what's wrong and to show us how we can improve. Now, even though the basketball player is great and has achieved a lot of things, and the coach doesn't necessarily have the skill of the basketball player. So Kobe Bryant's coach, LeBron James' coach, Michael Jordan's coach, whoever the basketball player is, their coach probably doesn't have the skills that they have. But what does the coach have that they don't have? The coach has insight. So you have to find people in your life who can give you the insight, who can show you where you're deficient, and who can give you the strategic steps that you need to take to become more proficient in whatever it is, whether it's sports or life. So you need that evaluation, and then you need that strategic person in your life who can be honest with you and guide you. In my life, I have had mentors, and my mentors have helped to guide me. So in the past, when I look at each year and beginning each new year, I would talk to my mentors. Previously my mentor was Dr. Miles Monroe. I had another mentor who was very strategic in my life, and that was Dr. Robin Gould. Both of my mentors passed away. So now I have to find new mentors, or I have to mentor myself in a way. So what I've learned how to do is to find those strategic persons. And sometimes it may be more than one person. Sometimes you may talk to one person that helps you refine in one area, and you may talk to another person that helps you refine in another area. So that's very important. The third thing I want you to remember to be as a success strategy for 2023 is, or whatever year you're involved in or you're approaching, is exposure. Now, what do I mean by exposure? Here's what I found. I have found that you are limited to your environment. So let's say, for example, I was talking to a young man I was mentoring some years ago, and we were talking about his life and where he was going in life. And he let me know that in his entire life, he had never been outside of East LA. So he had never even been to Beverly Hills. He had never been to downtown LA. He had never been to Hollywood. He lived in LA, but he was only exposed to a limited environment. So one of the things that I told him is, I said, you need to move into new environments. You see, whatever environment we grow up in, whatever environment we are exposed to, it limits us. So if you've never been in around the world, then you have only the environment that you've been around as your reference point. When you begin to see the world, things open up. And so I told him, I said, you need to go places. If you never move, if you never increase your level of exposure, it limits you. In the Bahamas, we live on an island. And if you never leave the island, then you have an island mentality. In today's world, sometimes it doesn't mean physically leaving. It means expanding what you watch on YouTube, exposing yourself to new information. And that's very important. By changing environments, even temporarily, you gain exposure that changes your perspective and that increases your value. The more you're exposed to, the higher your value goes up. I remember one time hearing about a group from New York. They had never been outside of New York, and they ended up going to Africa on a trip. Now, before they left New York, they were all complaining about the limits that they had. But when they went to Africa, the group that took them to Africa exposed them to young people whose parents had died of AIDS. And they were thinking, we don't have enough money, we don't have, what we need, we need to buy new Jordans, whatever it is. And then they went into a hut where a young man was taking care of his brothers and sisters after his father and mother had passed away. And this young man was giving a motivational speech to them. They ended up crying because they thought that things were so bad where they were. And here it is, this young man who had much less than them is motivating them. It changed their perspective. When they went back to New York, they looked at things differently. So sometimes you need exposure. I remember another story about a young man who grew up in the ghetto, and he was working with his mother, and his mother was servicing rich clients. And she took him with him on Miami Beach to service these rich clients. And as he began to go with her to these rich clients, they had audios playing about changing your mind and changing your mindset. And he listened to these. And because he listened and he was exposed to new information, he ended up moving out of the ghetto and changing his life, becoming a motivational speaker when so many others around him were caught up in the ghetto syndrome that he was caught up in. So that exposure expanded his world, expanded his possibilities, and created a new future for him. So we all need exposure. The final thing I want you to remember today is that everyone needs a vision and a plan. The Bible says we perish because of a lack of vision and a lack of knowledge. So we need to have a vision. You need to have a vision for your life. What's your vision for this new year? What do you want to accomplish? What do you expect to achieve? What are some of the things that you would like to do? Well, write it down. The Bible says, write it down and make it plain. Write the vision down and make it plain so that he can run who reads it. So you need to make your vision plain to yourself so you can run with it. And the final thing I want to mention is that each of us need a routine. A routine is very important. What I've learned in life is that you become, as I mentioned before, you become your habits. And so you have to develop routines that bring you success. Let me give you an example. One of the things that I do, one of my routines, is that every day when I wake up in the morning, I start my day by exposing myself to inspirational material, whether it's music, whether it's a motivational talk, whatever it is. I begin my day with meditation and motivation. Why? Because I'm setting the table for my day. I'm setting my course. I'm saying that I don't want to start out with a negative day. So I don't start out with negative thoughts. I start out with inspiration and motivation. The next thing that I do, one of my routines, is I rehearse my day. So if I have meetings to go to, if I have things I want to do, I visualize myself in those meetings. So before I ever enter a meeting, I think about what the meeting is about. I think about who I'm talking to. I think about what I'm going to say. So when I enter the meeting, I've already been in the meeting. So you always want to go and finish what you are preparing to start. So you need to see yourself at the end of the conversation before you begin the conversation. See yourself at the end of the meeting before you begin the meeting. This has been really helpful for me because when I get into a meeting, I'm comfortable. I've already been in that meeting. So you set a routine. So these are some principles that I just wanted to share with you, key success strategies for the new year. There are many more we can share, but I wanted to give you some that you can begin working on now. So remember that habits determine your outcome. So you have to listen up, you have to read up, you have to associate up, you have to grow up. And then you have to expose yourself to the right information that would accelerate your development. And then you need to make sure that you have a vision and plan and you develop a daily routine. These are key success strategies for this new year. Make sure you begin the year right. Thank you.